Good morning from the National Weather Service office at Lake Charles, Louisiana. I'm meteorologist Donald Jones, and I know it's never a good sign when you see me on a live social media briefing, because that usually means there's a tropical system coming. There is a tropical system coming, but it's not going to be a named tropical system, most likely, or any kind of a significant tropical cyclone. What we are looking at, I have no doubt you've heard over the last week or so about the potential tropical development in the Gulf. There is still a low-end chance for a tropical system to kind of get a little bit of its act together in the Gulf here. But I think much more likely scenarios, we're going to be looking at an area of low pressure moving across the northern Gulf as we go through the next few days. And that is going to bring us the potential for some very heavy rain and flash flooding. That is by far going to be our biggest threat with this system. So let's right off the bat here, before we even get into anything, this is not going to be a wind event. This is going to be a rain event. This is not going to be a hail event. This is not going to be a tornado event. This is not most likely going to be any kind of a severe thunderstorm type of event, although I can't rule out maybe one or two stronger storms. But the vast majority of this is going to be heavy rain, and that's what we're going to be talking about here over the next few minutes. For those of you who have never seen this before, because it's been a while since we've done one, this is a live interactive briefing. So if you have any questions as we go through our briefing, feel free to post them in our comment section, and we'll be happy to answer them just as soon as we wrap up our briefing. I can see there are a few comments already in there. I just want to make sure that nobody's yelling at about the audio. We're notorious for bad audio around here. It looks like everything is working well, though, so that is wonderful and fantastic. I'm not going to answer questions until I get done through my briefing, but as soon as I am, we'll go ahead and go through that. Let's go ahead and jump into it here. You can see behind me here, we are expecting a whole lot of rainfall. Essentially, it's going to rain pretty much every day this week. We're looking at very high rain chances, 60 to 100% chance pretty much every day from today onward. Let me go ahead and start here, actually, before we even get into this. Just want to kind of show you what's going on out there right now. Taking a look at the radar view at the moment, you see there is some heavy rain beginning to develop across parts of southeast Texas, Jefferson, Hardin County. You can see some additional shower and thunderstorm activity developing into parts of Beauregard Parish as well. Parts of central Louisiana have already seen several inches of rain here this morning. Parts of northern Vernon, Rapides, and Avoyelles parishes. You can see there was actually a flood warning in effect for parts of Rapides and Avoyelles parishes that has been allowed to expire just within the last few minutes or so. But we are going to be looking at this risk for flooding continuing through the day. Most of those of us along and south of the I-10 corridor hasn't seen a whole lot so far this morning. But this will be increasing in coverage. You can see all this rain back towards the Houston area is moving in direction. And so we're going to be dealing with that this afternoon and into this evening. So again, we're looking at roughly a 5-day rainfall event. And this is coming from two distinct features. The activity or the system that's causing the rain today is actually a cold front. I'm going to put that in quotes because there's absolutely no cold air with it, as you would expect for this time of year. But what it is doing is providing a focus right along the coastline for these showers and thunderstorms to develop all the way from Houston, all the way over here, and into parts of southeast Louisiana and southern Mississippi as well. And that's just going to kind of sit over us for the next couple of days and allow these storms to develop. We may get a little bit of a reprieve overnight tonight, but we are still going to be looking at some showers and thunderstorms even through the night tonight and continuing into tomorrow. Then we're going to have that tropical low that I mentioned earlier. That's going to be moving from kind of the Bay of Campeche, kind of up the eastern Gulf Coast of Mexico and Texas, and then eventually move kind of up the upper Texas coast and into across Louisiana. So it's basically going to kind of follow the coastline as it moves across, and that is going to bring us kind of our second round of heavy rainfall Thursday to Friday. Now, the fact that we're dealing with such a long duration heavy rainfall event, those rainfall totals are going to begin to pile up. So we're looking at the potential, especially across southeast Texas and western Louisiana, up to 10 to 15 inches of rain, not out of the realm of possibility. In a few spots, maybe even see higher than that. You can see the rainfall totals, they kind of drop off a little bit as you get a little bit further east, but still looking at anywhere between 6 to 10 inches of rain, even across parts of central and south central Louisiana. And as you get into southeast Louisiana, over towards the Baton Rouge, New Orleans area, you can see those rainfall totals still kind of in the 3 to 4 inch range. So still looking at some significant rainfall totals over that way as well. And, besides just the rainfall accumulations, this is going to be producing very heavy rain. So we're going to get very high rainfall rates because this is a very tropical type of atmosphere. So when we're talking about rainfall rates of 3 to 5 inches per hour, even the best drainage systems across the area are not going to be capable of handling that. And as most of you know, we have less than ideal drainage conditions across this region. So this is going to be a flood threat both from the high rainfall rates and the total accumulations as well. So we do have a flood watch in effect. I'll show you that here in just a second. I just want to kind of talk real quick about what's going on. Again, we have this stalled frontal boundary. This is where it was this morning. It's going to be sinking further closer to the coastline by this afternoon and into this evening, and then it's just going to kind of sit here for the next, say, about 36 hours or so before eventually kind of dissipating. So all day today, pretty much all night tonight, and again tomorrow, we're going to be looking at these rounds of showers and thunderstorms kind of moving along that stalled frontal boundary. And then we're going to have the tropical low that we've been watching. That's going to be moving up the Texas coastline here Wednesday into Thursday, and that's going to bring us continued rain Thursday into Friday. Speaking of which, this is the latest on that tropical wave. Let me go ahead and make this full screen for you so you can take a little bit closer look at it. And you can see the area of potential development. Essentially, it's all along the Texas and western Louisiana coastlines. Now, if I get me out of the way here, you can see the overall probability of developing this into any kind of a named tropical system or organized tropical cyclone is still very low. We're looking at about a 20% chance in the next 48 hours, and then through 7 days, about a 30% chance. Now, this is not going to last 7 days. This will be inland by Friday. So if there is going to be any kind of development, it's going to be before then. But generally speaking, we're still looking at a very low probability of development. And even if it does, we're talking about a weak tropical depression. In the absolute worst case scenario, a minimal tropical storm. This is not expected to become a hurricane, certainly not a major hurricane. This is going to be either a tropical wave, possibly a tropical depression, or in a worst case scenario, a minimal tropical storm. So winds are not going to be a concern as far as property damage. Now, there is going to be the possibility where we could be looking at some coastal flooding because, anytime you get a 25, 30 mile an hour wind blowing out of the southeast for a long period of time along the coast, it creates essentially a minor storm surge of less than 3 feet. So we could be looking at some coastal flooding with those persistent southeasterly winds, but we're not expecting any kind of significant storm surge, and we're certainly not expecting any kind of damaging winds out of this system, even in a worst case scenario. The biggest overall risk is going to be the potential for flooding, and that's what we're going to kind of keep harping on here over the next little while. As I mentioned, we do have a flood watch in effect. This flood watch, right now it goes through 7 a.m. Wednesday. I think it's very likely that this is going to be extended through the end of the week, probably sometime tomorrow or Wednesday morning at the latest. But this is almost certainly going to be extended through Thursday and Friday if the forecast that we're expecting continues to be on track as we're anticipating it to be. So right now, only until Wednesday morning, but expect this to go at least until probably Friday evening. And this will be extended at some point in the future. This is a take a look here. I'm going to make this full screen because it's kind of a lot of information to digest here. But this is the probabilities of precipitation as we go through the next 5 days. You can see the rainfall really goes all the way through Saturday. Now, the stuff on Saturday is going to be a little bit more of those kind of afternoon type thunderstorms, even though we are looking at about a 50% chance early in the day. But this is going to be kind of the lingering remnants of that tropical moisture, as well as the afternoon heating by the weekend. So the overall rain chances this weekend are going to be a little bit lower, but we are looking at very high rain chances just about every day this week. And you can see even into the overnight hours, we're still looking at, going tonight into tomorrow, we're still looking at a 60 to 80% chance of rain. Wednesday night into Thursday, still looking at a 50 to 60% chance of rain, and continuing on. So there's not really going to be too much of a break here. Maybe a brief period Tuesday night into Wednesday morning where we kind of get most of the shower and thunderstorm activity out of here. But this is going to be a long duration, potential heavy rainfall event that is going to exist pretty much through the entire week this week. Now, this is a look at our forecast rainfall totals. Let me get me out of the picture again. I'm just everywhere I don't want to be on here. So what I have here is two different graphics, and we kind of broke it down between today through Wednesday, and then again Thursday into Friday. So I'm going to start with the first graphic, then I'll give you a total for the entire week period. So what we have here on the left here, this is the most likely scenario. This is what we're expecting to happen. And then on the right hand, you can see is our reasonably highest rainfall amounts, or our worst case scenario. This is calculated by essentially we take the bottom, the 90% of computer models, and the worst 90% effectively becomes our worst case scenario. So there's still a 10% chance that rainfall totals could be higher than that, but this accounts for the vast majority of the variation in the computer model. So the most likely scenario, anywhere between 2 to up to 6 inches of rain expected. Now, again, this is just today through Wednesday. We're going to be looking at even more rain Thursday and Friday, but since this is kind of coming in two distinct waves, we wanted to kind of break it down separately for you. And then in our worst case scenario, 4 to up to 10 inches of rain. And again, that's just today through Wednesday. Now, if we add in, we're going to go and look at Thursday and Friday and really Saturday morning. This is going to be the tropical wave or whatever it becomes at that point. So we're looking at an additional 4 to 8 inches of rain in our most likely scenario, and an additional 4 to 10 inches of rain in our worst case scenario. So if you add those two together, we're looking at the potential for a few spots to see up to 20 inches of rainfall. Now, not everybody's going to see 20 inches of rainfall, but it's not out of the realm of possibility that a few areas could see that. I've been getting a lot of questions this morning asking me, is this comparable to the 2016 event? Because that was kind of a similar situation where it was a tropical air mass, but it wasn't exactly a named tropical system, and we saw significant rainfall out of that. So in that respect, yes. Does that mean the same areas that flooded in 2016 are going to flood again? No, not necessarily. It's impossible to say exactly where those heaviest storms and those heaviest bands are going to pop up, but somewhere across the region could potentially see up to 20 inches of rain. And it could occur in more than one location. There could be 2 or 3 spots where we see significant amounts of rainfall on that level. I'm going to come back to this in just a second. I want to kind of show you. I'm going to come back to the very first slide here, because this has the total accumulations for the entire week period. So add the entire week together, and these are the numbers that we're getting, anywhere between, on the low end, 6 inches, on the high end, 15 to 20 inches. So we're looking at very significant rainfall totals over the 5-day period. And it's important to keep in mind that it's not going to rain constantly. It's not going to start and then just keep going and going. It's going to come in waves. And within those waves, we're going to be looking at very heavy rainfall. So you might wind up with a 5-day total of 10 inches, but 6 or 7 of those 10 inches may happen over a period of 2 or 3 hours. So it could happen where you wind up getting very high rainfall rates, and the vast majority of your rain falls over a relatively short period of time. So kind of keep that in mind, that this is not necessarily going to be uniformly spread out across the entire 5-day period. Now we're going to take a look here. I'm going to put this back full screen here in just a second. But essentially what we're looking at here, this is the overall probability of seeing flooding over the next 3 days, and I'll show you the Thursday and Friday here in just a second. But this was actually just updated for today. This is a product that's issued by the Weather Prediction Center. It's called the Excessive Rainfall Outlook. And the graphic on the left, that is the forecast for today. The red you're seeing there is a moderate risk. That's I've got a lot of people telling me I'm backing up on here. But there's not a whole lot, unfortunately, that I can do about that. That's our internet for you. Okay. I'm told that we just got an updated graphic for this map here. Let me see if I can jump out. I apologize for the terrible audio. Unfortunately, that's the way of our internet booking. Is going to come back here in just a second. Unfortunately, there ain't nothing I can do about that. All right, let's see if this loads back. All right, here we go. So now we're looking at this is the updated excessive rainfall outlook. And you can see that area highlighted in red, which now covers pretty much all of Southeast Texas, as well as Western Louisiana, Central Louisiana, and just to the west of Lafayette. We are looking at essentially the red here is a moderate risk. I don't have the legend. That's a category 3 out of 4 on the Weather Prediction Center severe weather scale. So we're looking at roughly, I think that goes to about a 49% chance of seeing flash flooding within 25 miles of any given location in those areas. So essentially, if you live anywhere in Southeast Texas, Western Louisiana, that includes Lake Charles area, up towards Alexandria, you're looking at roughly about a 30 to 50% chance of seeing flash flooding within 25 miles of your location, which is very, very high. Vivian says I sound like an alien. That is terrifying, Vivian. Thank you for that. I would love to not sound like an alien, but unfortunately, I don't know that there's anything I can do about it. Let me see if I can edit my settings here. I don't know if this is going to do any good, but I'm going to give it a shot. Somebody says it's better now, so we'll see. Hopefully, I think this is just our internet quality bouncing in and out. We're going to keep pressing on, though. All right, so as we get into Tuesday, you can see we are still looking at that moderate risk, that category 3 out of 4. So this does continue to cover the Lake Charles area. It is going to continue to cover Beaumont, Port Arthur, down towards Cameron. So again, 30 to 50% chance of seeing flooding in those locations. The rest of the area is in a slight risk. That's the areas highlighted in yellow. So that's essentially a 15 to 30% chance of seeing flooding within 25 miles of a location. That is the Lafayette, New Iberia, down towards Morgan City, Alexandria, up towards Jasper and Newton, and those areas. So all the major metropolitan areas that are not Lake Charles and Beaumont are in that slight risk for Tuesday. And don't be surprised if that moderate risk gets extended or enlarged as we go into tonight and tomorrow, depending on exactly where the heaviest rain sets up. And then going into Wednesday, you can see a continued moderate risk kind of in those same areas, Lake Charles over towards Beaumont, and then the slight risks narrowed down a little bit for Wednesday, because we're expecting a little bit less in terms of overall rainfall on Wednesday. So it's kind of going to be mostly Monday, Tuesday. There are going to be storms around Wednesday, but not quite as much. And then as we get into the latter part of the week, we are looking at continued rainfall, and kind of the second round. This is going to be the tropical wave Thursday into Friday. You can see by Thursday that moderate risk basically covers the entire area. So pretty much all of Southeast Texas and Southwest, South Central, Central Louisiana, with the exception of Morgan City, which is in that slight risk. But basically what we're looking at is that's going to be the bulk of the second round, with that tropical wave, maybe a tropical depression, depending on what it becomes. But that weak tropical system moving across, the majority of that rain is going to be Thursday. And then it is going to continue into Friday. We're probably not going to be looking at quite the same number of rainfall totals or the same level of rainfall totals Friday that we see Thursday. But the ground is already going to be well saturated by that point. The rivers are going to be full. The retention ponds, ditches, all that going to be very full. So it's not going to take a whole lot of rain to exacerbate flooding, especially later in the week, Friday, and possibly even into Saturday as well. So we just mentioned the possibility of river flooding. I want to kind of show this here just real quick. This is, and I know this graphic is not the best, but this is just going to kind of give you an idea of what kind of flooding we're anticipating. This is a forecast for river flooding. Now, the dots in green here are essentially where we're not expecting flooding. The yellow is minor flooding, the orange is moderate flooding, and reds are major flooding. So you can see we've got the Sabine River here, the Calcasieu there. So we're looking at pretty much large swaths of the rivers, effectively looking at anywhere between moderate and major flooding expected across much of the region. Now, this is a forecast. This is going to be highly subjected to exactly how much rain falls and exactly where it falls and which watershed it falls in. So don't expect this to be perfect, but it does kind of give you an idea that we are expecting significant river flooding in addition to the potential for street flooding and home flooding with this event. Obviously, the water has to go somewhere, and eventually all the water winds up in the rivers. So we talked a little bit at the top here about the potential for coastal flooding as well. Now, this is not flooding based on rainfall, but flooding based on wind. And while we're not expecting this tropical disturbance to turn into a named tropical system at this point, it is still going to be, it's an area of low pressure. So it's going to have some breezy winds with it. Winds 25, 30 miles an hour, especially offshore and right along the immediate coastline. What's going to happen is all that wind piles up that water just like it would in a storm surge situation. Effectively, it's going to create a small storm surge, generally 3 feet or less, but it is still going to be there. So what we're looking here, this is actually Texas Point. I'll show you a couple other sites in just a second. But this is the forecast high and low tides as we go through the next few days. Notice how it gradually increases as we go Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Thursday is the day where we're going to have that low kind of right off our coast. So that's when we're expecting the highest tidal surge and the highest surge associated with strong southerly winds kind of pushing everything ashore. So don't be surprised if we see at least some minor coastal flooding across the entire region. So areas along the Jefferson County coast, the Cameron coast, if you live in an area where you get coastal flooding, you're pretty much well aware of it. But if you routinely get coastal flooding, expect coastal flooding to occur as early as Wednesday, but more likely Thursday into Friday. This is Calcasieu Pass. You can see the same general trend where we're kind of increasing during the high tide period. They're going a little higher each day. And then this is Eugene Island. Again, pretty much kind of the same overall trend. Just kind of slowly, those high tides just getting ever so slightly higher and higher with each passing day. So finally taking a look at our 5-day forecast, it's going to rain, kids, in case you haven't figured that out yet. We are looking at very high rain chances pretty much each day, all the way through the weekend. And we're still going to be looking at least 50 to 60% chance of rain all the way through next weekend. I know there's a lot of outdoor events going on next weekend. That's Father's Day weekend, isn't it? So yeah, a lot of people want to get outside. Unfortunately, we are going to be dodging some showers and thunderstorms for that. I think the highest flood threat is going to be over with by the weekend, but we are still going to be dodging some showers and thunderstorms, and we're definitely going to be very soggy across the region by next weekend. So have an alternative indoor plan if you have outdoor plans for the weekend. The one upside to all this rain, it is going to be cooler. We're looking at temperatures in the kind of the low to mid 80s for the next several days, because all this cloud cover and rain are going to keep the temperatures down, unfortunately, because it's raining. You can't really get out and enjoy it, but it will give your air conditioners a bit of a break. So that's what we have here this morning from the National Weather Service. If you have any questions, feel free to post them in our comment section. I'll be happy to answer them over the next few minutes. Let me go ahead and back up here just real quick. And let's see, I'm going to go ahead and all the way back to the beginning. And you can look at the beautiful bright red colors behind me here while I check for your questions. Give me just a moment here. Ian asks, what day will the disturbance come in? It's going to be the disturbance itself is going to be moving across the area Thursday into Friday. So what we're seeing today and tomorrow is mainly just a stalled frontal boundary, but the disturbance is going to be moving up the coast Thursday and into Friday. So the majority of rain associated with that is going to be later in the week. Let's see. Kelsey asks, could this be an Imelda event or, God forbid, a Harvey event, Southeast Texas? It's not going to be, those aren't directly comparable, because that was, or at least it was at one time, a very strong hurricane that just kind of sat over the same area for 4 or 5 days. This particular disturbance is not going to be sitting over this area nearly as long. We're kind of dealing with two different features here. The first one is just a frontal boundary. That's what's bringing us the storms today and tomorrow. And then the second one is going to be that tropical low Thursday and Friday. Now, the tropical low is not going to stall over the area. It's not going to be moving very fast, but it is going to be moving kind of up and out over the 48-hour period Thursday into Friday. So I don't expect that. Harvey, we had Port Arthur, just north or west of Port Arthur, I think, wound up at over 60 inches of rain. We're not forecasting that in this. Now, 15 to 20, not out of the realm of possibility for a few spots. This is going to be more, if I had to give it a more direct comparison, it's not an exact comparison, but it's better, it would be the 2016 event. But again, just because if you did flood in that event, that doesn't mean you're going to flood in this event, and vice versa. Just because you were safe in that event doesn't mean you're necessarily safe in this event either. Ashley asks, is anywhere doing sandbags? Not that I'm aware, but I honestly haven't taken a look this morning. Your local TV media outlets will have that information if they are available. But yeah, I haven't checked this morning, so I can't answer for sure. It's my understanding that we're going to be offering a briefing to the emergency managers and local political figures later on this afternoon. I think that's scheduled for 1 o'clock this afternoon. So a lot of those decisions, if they're going to be made, they're going to be made this afternoon after that briefing. So you get the early information. Jessica's got me quoted there. It's going to rain, kids. Yes, it is. You can put that on a bumper sticker and put it on the back of my truck. Joe's asking about tornado threats with the tropical system. I don't think we're going to have much of a tornado risk. In fact, really no appreciable tornado risk. Certainly not today, and I don't think there's going to be much of a tornado risk with this event at all this week. I don't like to say never, but the overall risk is very, very low. We're not expecting tornadoes with this. Devin says, hey, Donald, long time no see. That's a bad thing. The less you see me, the better the weather is. The more you start seeing me, the more you have to start fearing about things, for things. Jody asks, what will this look like for the Youngsville area for the 2D Baseball World Series? I'm not sure when the 2D Baseball World Series is, but if it's this week, it's looking pretty bad. I know I actually did a forecast for a baseball tournament next weekend, and that's going to be a little more hit and miss. But if you've got baseball games anytime this week, be prepared for them to be rained out. And unfortunately, because we're going to be looking at these several day periods, there's not going to be a whole lot of opportunity to make them up either. Tammy asks, when's the next briefing? Don't have a scheduled next briefing at this point. We're going to try to provide an update. I'm going to say probably sometime tomorrow at this point. If something changes significantly, we'll do another one this afternoon, but I'm going to say tomorrow at this point, and even that's going to be predicated on just how busy things are. If we kind of get chaos with the warnings, then we're going to have to prioritize that. But I will try to get you an update here tomorrow at the latest. If something's going to change. Brandy asks, what is the projections for Sabine Pass coastal flooding? Got that graphic right here. I was ready for that question. Let's see. All right, so this is Texas Point. So this is going to be, this is right at Sabine Pass. Let me go ahead and make this full screen so you can take a little bit closer look at it here. Essentially, like we were talking about a minute ago, we're going to be looking at the high tide periods are going to get higher and progressively higher and higher each day this week. With the highest expected on Thursday, because that's when we're expecting that tropical wave to be right off the coast and pushing that southerly flow. So expect some at least minor coastal flooding Thursday morning during the period of high tide, which it looks like this is going to be actually probably overnight. It looks like kind of early Thursday morning, so probably between about 2 and 6 or 7 a.m. is going to be your high tide period there. So if you're going to see coastal flooding, that's when it's going to occur. You can see this is showing 1.5 to 1.8 feet mean high water. Essentially what that means is, I'm not even going to get into what it means. Don't worry about it. The point is you're going to be looking at some coastal flooding Thursday morning in that area. It's kind of complicated. So that's beyond the scope of what I want to get into right now. Amanda says, so it's more of a rain event and not so much stormy weather. Exactly. Yes, the biggest threat with this whole thing this week is going to be rain. Even if, the storm does develop into some kind of tropical depression or minimal tropical storm, most of us have been around here long enough. We're familiar with how tropical systems work. Even a minimal tropical storm is not going to bring damaging winds. It's going to bring a lot of rain. So whether this is a non-named tropical wave or a minimal tropical storm, the result is going to be the same. The impact is going to be the same. The focus needs to be on the heavy rain and the flood threat. Dane asked, with El Nino this year for hurricane season, will Southeast Texas or Southwest Louisiana get hurricanes? Will they have too much wind shear in the Gulf? That's unfortunately impossible to say whether we're going to see a hurricane here or not. El Nino, because, as you mentioned, the higher wind shear, not just in the Gulf, but in the Atlantic, tends to limit hurricane or tropical development. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the few that do develop couldn't potentially impact us. So we can't say where the ones that develop are going to go. But in general, El Nino tends to result in fewer hurricanes. So the odds are a little bit better, at least this year, compared to a La Nina year or an El Nino neutral year. And it says, I'm at work, tuned in. I'm like, I know him. I know, huh? It's been a long time since we've done this. That's, again, though, not a bad thing. The less you see of me, the better everybody is. Kimmy's asking, are we looking at high wind possibilities for Scott Point area? No, we're not expecting high winds with this event at all at this point. This is going to be a flood event or a rain event and potentially a flood event, but no, we're not expecting any kind of damaging winds at this point. Barbara says, I skipped you. I'm sorry, Barbara. I didn't mean to skip you. Let me see if I can go back and see. Barbara says, what about Lumberton? Again, it's going to be mainly a heavy rain thing. Let me go ahead and make this full screen here. And I'm going to come back to the very first slide because that kind of gives you a pretty good idea as far as potential totals for the week, this 5-day period. So you can see the Lumberton area, you're kind of in that 10 plus inch range. Now, again, it's going to be over a 5-day period. It's not necessarily going to fall all at once, but you may see, and this goes for everybody, you may see a situation where you might see 5, 7, 8 of those 10 inches occur in just a few hours, and that will potentially cause some flash flooding. So again, it's a 5-day total, but the majority of this activity may fall over a relatively short period of time. Kathy says, be prepared for trees to fall because of the ground being saturated, possible electricity interruptions. That's a good point, Kathy, and I should have brought that up myself. But yes, absolutely. A lot of times what will happen is when you get the ground very saturated like that, even a breeze of 25 or 30 miles an hour could potentially knock over a weak tree, or something to that effect that could fall on a power line. So yeah, would not surprise me at all if we do see some sporadic power outages. I don't think the vast majority of the area is not going to lose power, but there could be a few neighborhoods that could see some power outages with, yes. People don't usually think about power outages when it comes to flooding, but it is a possibility. Brittany says, I think a lot of us are just worried about evacuating, seeing as it was not a mandatory evacuation. There are no evacuation orders in effect. Again, we may not even be talking about a named system, so no, evacuation is not something we even need to think about at this point. Dane says, rain is better than hurricanes. I agree to a point. If we get 20 or 30 inches of rain, I'm going to agree less. But Crystal's asking about orange. Orange, pretty much the same thing as we were talking about Lumberton just a little bit ago. Your 5-day total, again, kind of in that 10 plus inch range. You can see there 10 to 15 actually officially being done. Now, keep in mind, that's a 5-day period. That's not necessarily going to fall in 3 hours, but you could wind up with several periods of rain that could result in some flooding as those totals begin to rise. Lori says our power goes out on a sunny day, so be prepared, kids. Yep, you're absolutely right. It doesn't take much sometimes. All right, so I think I've reached the bottom of my questions here, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap up for the time being. If you have a question that I missed for some reason, I promise you I did not do it on purpose. Feel free to send us a direct message on Facebook. You can also send us an X tweet. I don't know what the hell they call it anymore, but whatever it is, you can send us a message on X. You can send us a message on Instagram. You can send me a message directly if you'd like. My email's on your screen there. It's been up there. You can also give us a call if you prefer. The office phone number is on the screen there as well. Area code 337-477-5285. And I'll be happy to answer those questions that I may or may not have missed. Brandy asks, is the Port Arthur worst case scenario 20 inches over 5 days? It's probably closer to like 10 to 15, but yeah, that's kind of the idea. Anthony, is Calcasieu schools out this week? Yes, Calcasieu schools are out this week. That's the one positive about summertime, is I don't have to answer the are the schools closed questions. Michelle says my map overlaps. What about Lake Charles? You're right, it does. Lake Charles is kind of, and again, you're right on the edge of that 10 to 15. So, we're not going to split hairs with that. And I don't want you to look at this graphic here and take it as gospel, because I promise you it's not. The general trend is kind of what I want you to take home from this. We're looking at anywhere between 6 to, on the high side, 15 to possibly 20 inches of rain. The higher rainfall totals are going to be southeast Texas, as you can see, and western Louisiana. The rainfall totals are going to get a little bit lower as you go further east into south central and southeast Louisiana. Just because you're in the 10 to 15 instead of the 8 to 10, that's a forecast. That's very likely to be wrong. Mother Nature never makes pretty pictures with her rainfall totals. So kind of bear that in mind. While Lake Charles technically is in this 10 to 15 inch range, it could be 6 inches. It could be 20 inches. It just depends on exactly where those rainfall totals set up. Kristen says, I know the Woodlands isn't your coverage area, but we're planning to go there Friday for softball weekend. How's it looking for travel? Very wet and potentially flooded. I don't think the interstates are going to flood necessarily, but if you're traveling from anywhere in this area out to the Woodlands, you're going to potentially run into at least some flooded secondary roadways. I'm not sure the rainfall totals are still pretty high over in the Houston forecast area. They're the ones that cover the woodlands. So contact them. They'll be able to give you more specific details than I can. But they are still going to be looking at quite a bit of rainfall out in the woodlands as well. All right, so we're going to go ahead and wrap up again because I had a bunch of questions come in all at once. But again, if you have a question that I missed, feel free to send us a message and we'll be happy to answer it that way. We are going to try to do another one of these briefings tomorrow. You know, severe or not severe, but flooding pending, and how busy we are here pending. So I can't promise, but I'm going to say we're going to try to do another one of these tomorrow. Everyone have a great rest of your day. Stay safe, stay dry, stay off the flooded roadways, as we say around here. Turn around, don't drown. I know it's a really stupid saying, but it's true. It works. It could potentially save your life. So as dumb as it sounds, heed its advice. We'll talk to you again tomorrow morning.